Jeff, you read a situation that you have this year with Tyler where you have a kicker who established to some degree, who misses a whole year and now is trying to get it all the way back, and how do you approach trying to get him back to where he was?
I'd say there's been times in my career where there's been something either at the end of the season with a specialist or, an off-season procedure, whatever, guys coming back. I think you just go step by step with it and try and put them in the environments that they're going to be in, kind of build from there. We've done some individual stuff. We've done some team things so far. It hadn't worked out for us to be on the field quite yet. That'll happen later on this week and then again at the stadium. But I don't think you skip steps. It starts from ground zero and getting guys. He's working with 2 new holders right now. That's a part of that comfort. So it's going to be a rep thing, and but he looks like he did on tape, and everything's going well so far.
Jeff, is that by design or just weather related that he's not been on the field during practice? We've not seen him kick. I'm sure he's been kicking.
Yes. Yes to your question. Yes, he's kicked. It has been by design, not because it's like, don't let him kick just yet. It's been, there's a finite number of things that we can get done on the field. And whether you are doing it amongst your team or in a joint practice, field goal protection is not going to be as combative in practice as it is in a game. You can get things like kickoff. You can get things like punt, those kinds of phases. So we've taken advantage of the walkthrough time because of the tempo that it requires or doesn't require, and getting in that team environment. But at some point, guys got to start working on that stuff. So this will be Thursday will be the 3rd time that we do field goal protection as a team. But the first time we've done it in pads, and we wanted a padded day, so hopefully we get that worked out.
Jeff, what are some of the challenges that Tyler faces kicking in an entirely new stadium and having it be his home stadium?
Yeah, it's a little bit different because it is the home stadium, but NFL kickers are used to going to a stadium that they're not really familiar with, when they play on the road. There's going to be things that guys are going to acquire knowledge over time. We're fortunate we're going to be able to get in there on Saturday. We're going to get in there next week. We're going to get in there a couple of times. And there'll be some times once we get back to Orchard Park where, maybe the specialists can go over there at certain times during the day and work on their craft. Maybe if it's a day we're doing kickoff return, those guys can go over there and kick. So we'll figure that stuff out as time goes on. But it's, it's everybody. It's the returners. It's the kickers. It's the punters. So I've been in the stadium. I've observed some of that stuff. It's really cool. It's a great place, but as time goes on, the things that you're able to say, we went over there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, that might not be the wind pattern when it is at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. So we'll be looking for times to get over there and check it out.
Tyler was saying he's wishing for a real windy day just to get an idea of what it's going to be like in November, December. Is that, a real windy day to get in there in practice and get a feel for that stadium?
You're talking about in the stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it comes up, obviously if, that real windy day happens the day before we're going to play a game, we're probably not going to go over there and kick, but we'll be looking for those opportunities to get over there.
You're looking for a punt returner. How challenging is it to manufacture the opportunities you need to see from them in the preseason setting, knowing you're completely at the mercy of game situation? Like in an ideal world, you'd love to get each guy 3 reps through the course of the preseason, but that's easier said than done, right? So how do you evaluate that when opportunities might not be ideal?
Some of that stuff gets taken care of in practice. Ball security and decision making have a lot to do with the guy's success as a punt returner. The skill set athletically, is what kind of makes a guy ascend. But if you can't catch it or you make bad decisions, you're probably not going to be out there and get a whole lot of chances. So the game situations mean more than what the practice stuff does. I would also say there's a couple candidates that we have who have game tape. You take that into consideration, whatever their past successes are. But we are looking for those things, and there are a number of guys competing for that job. So, look forward to seeing how it all shakes out.
Sticking with return games, through your career, have you had more situations where you kind of knew who your guys were going in or is it like this where it's kind of a free fall and you got to figure out what you have?
It's a good question. I'd have to really think back. I would say it's probably 50-50. You know, if somebody was on your team and did a good job the year before, took the bulk of them, and then returning versus, you know, we do have to figure it out. So, you know, it doesn't always come down to like who has the best skill set as the return job. You hope it does, but your roster's got to be able to accommodate that. Sometimes it's, you know, is this roster spot worth, you know, this player if that's the only thing he does. You know, maybe he's a wide receiver, maybe he's a DB, maybe he's a running back, and if that guy's a contributor, it kind of saves a roster spot for not having to allocate that stuff. But the bottom line is that guy's got the ball in his hands a lot, especially with the new kickoff rule. Like, there's not very many touchbacks, so I don't know what the numbers are, but you know, you need to have people back there that you trust. In the kickoff return game, you know, you need two. The chances of Ray being back there the first time we return a kick, pretty good. But who's back there with him, right? And who's the punt returner? And there's a bunch of guys who are competing for that job, and you know, we'll see how it shakes out over the next month.
Have you had conversations with Joe about for the punt return job? I'm looking at this guy. Let's just say Keon. He may be heavily involved offensively. What's that dialogue like? Of I want to kind of save him for offense, and you got to manage that with the return job.
Yeah, we've had some of those conversations. My job as a special teams coach is to try and figure out, regardless of where anything goes, like, I got to have answers. Like, the worst thing I can say is, you know, I don't know. You know, once we've had a month and 6 weeks or whatever to figure it out. So, you know, Keon's been back there. Khalil did it obviously last year. D has return history with a previous team, and then, you know, there's McCole. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I mean, there's another 6, 7, 8 names that I could. I'm sure you guys are charting it during practice who's catching it, but you know, there's a bunch of guys there. So at the end of the day, when we get to, you know, Labor Day and have to make those decisions, you just present the different options of here's what a guy's role is offensively, defensively, and, you know, can he return? Some of the stuff may happen situationally, but there's going to be a time, and I've never been through an NFL season, you know, where it's not like, man, that other guy has to go in, you know. Patrick Peterson was the backup returner and got some burn when I was in Arizona. I mean, there's guys that are going to have to contribute at some point. So you're just trying to build the foundation now, and however it shakes out on Labor Day, you kind of just figure out guys' roles and what they're able to do after that.
Jeff, going back to Tyler, and he acknowledged there's going to be some nerves, some, you know, because he's not kicked in a competitive setting for a while.
Yep.
How do you approach that? How have you seen him kind of like work his confidence and mentality back to where it needs to be, and knowing that that first kick is going to be his first kick in a while?
Yeah, I mean, I just think you try to simulate it as best you can in the environments that you're allowed to have. Team settings, you know, in the stadium, in preseason games. You know, generally speaking, those guys, there was a first kick for him in college. There was a first kick for him in the NFL. There's a first kick, you know, throughout the season. Guys have ways of getting themselves mentally and physically ready for that. I'm just trying to coach the guys in front of him, you know, make sure he's protected, you know, snaps good, holds good, those kinds of things, and just let the natural talent take over when he puts his foot on the ball.
Tyler's had a lot of different holders throughout his career. What are your conversations like with him and building that trust with both of the punters here, and like how do you evaluate that?
It's a good question. I do think that the more time goes on and the more guys that he's had to work with in the past, that helps all of us say, okay, here are the things, here are kind of the check marks, that, like the non-negotiables, right? The ball needs to be down here so we can see it, and, you know, snap, and like all of those types of things. It is a rep thing, and when you have two guys working with them at the same time, what I've tried to do is, at least so far, is today's Tommy's day to hold, today's Mitch's day to hold, and try not to, you know, get both guys involved as we can. That may change as time goes on, where we'll have to mix in, but I try to let them solidify that part of it because they both do a good job, but it's different. You're working with a different person, so you try and make it as similar as you can between the two guys so that Tyler's reps are the same all the time.
Hey Jeff, what is Tommy's biggest challenge in transitioning from college to pro and everything, the mental load, everything that goes with it?
Yeah, it's another good question. So, trying to answer your specific question, I would say this: with a lot of college guys, the NFL punt play is different than the college punt play, and with the way that they punted at Florida, which is common for a lot of college teams, like the field spread, it's a different formation. You got 3 jumbo dudes sitting like 5 yards in front of the punter. It's a different feel, right? The same factors that go into success rates in college go into success rates in the NFL: efficiency, getting the ball off, hang time, directional placement. He's going to do some of those same things here as what he did there. You just got better guys, more consistent with waiting on the ball. So it's not a night and day difference in terms of what we're asking him to do, but receiving the ball, it just looks and feels different because where guys are allocated in terms of formations, that part of it's different.
Coach, every head coach has their preferences for what they're willing to allocate their special teams coordinators in terms of, hey, I can give you 4 core guys for your big 4 units,
Sure.
et cetera, et cetera.
Good lingo,
What
big
I'm talking
4,
about.
yeah.
What has Joe communicated to you in terms of what will be available to you in terms of 53-man rosters?
We've talked in very general senses, and we had a conversation during the walkthrough yesterday in the office, the other day. It is a long time till opening day, and what I've learned is it's not really worth talking about specific situations now, because whether it's 2 or 3 injuries or a guy that you weren't expecting really ascends, I just keep talking about the puzzle that you got to put together and kind of how it all fits together. When I'm talking about roster makeup, we had a meeting with the personnel department. I did sometime last week, and they had me talk about some of the things we look for in players and roster comp and those types of things. I look at things in, you have perimeter body types and you have kind of interior body types. So it's how that, I keep using the word puzzle. I've never said puzzle this many times in 5 minutes, but it's how do the tight ends fit in with the outside linebackers and the inside backers? How do the wide receivers offset the corners and the safeties? Some running backs are kind of tweener guys. Some safeties can be tweener guys. But it's so long. You try and get as many guys reps so you can say, this is what I think this guy's strength is. This is what I think he struggles with. If we make this decision, this is where this has got to come from. So we have had conversations, but I would tell you it's been pretty general. It's not like, hey, dude, you got 4 roster spots, do with it what you want.
So the short answer is TBD, but when, I guess, do you and Joe want to have those answers in concrete form? Can you push it to Labor Day? Because you want to also get reps with the guys you're going to have,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So
Yep.
is there like a point in time where like, hey, by the time we get through that second preseason game, we want to feel pretty good about who our people are and then just hope they stay healthy?
I think it's pretty close. By the time we get done with the joint practice, I think it's pretty close where you can kind of see it's not 12 different roster battles. It's kind of coming down to 3 or 4 in terms of not necessarily who make the team, but the game day roster for us on 4th down means more than the 53-man roster. I want as many good players. We all want as many good players as we can to have on Sundays. But if the guy's inactive, that's not really helping, anywhere for that particular week because he can't play. So that's where, as you get down to the end of training camp, some of those roster battles have sorted themselves out after about 4 or 5 weeks. But then the game day roster decisions, are fluid throughout the season.